Welcome to Taos, New Mexico. We're currently at the Earthship biotecture, which is a community of people living completely off the grid. They utilize only solar power and energy to heat, and not just these houses that you can see around you, but also water that is utilized within these communities. It's rather interesting. The landscape, as you can see, is completely stark. There's mountains in the background there, and it is a desert. We are in New Mexico, and there's snow on the ground. It's currently under 0 degrees Celsius over here. I don't have the willpower to pull out my other hand from my glove to figure out what exactly the temperature is, but the only form of energy that's being used here that is not renewable is gasoline, which is used to run cars and trucks, etc., to move around this place. But other than that, this is where we are right now. Let's take you across a little bit and show you what exactly is the landscape here. There you can see this is the Phoenix biotecture Earthship that is currently running, and it's a residential stay that can be hired for the night. And off in the distance you can also see some of the other homes that are occupied. There isn't just people who come here to visit, but really people who live here through the year and try and live off the grid, not utilize non-renewable sources of energy as they carry on their day-to-day lives. Oh, it is freezing right now.
I would just like to remind, we are in a desert area and we are in winter, so the temperature is below zero. It's below freezing right now outside. And what we have in here, it's a greenhouse, but we have the kind of climate, temperature and vegetation that you would see in a tropical area. So we have created a microclimate within this space where we can grow different kinds of vegetations which you would never see in the region here in general. So I think that's quite important to mention, because a lot of people feel bad also because they're buying bananas from the exterior or tropical fruits.
Right.
But actually you can, if you build this kind of house or a special greenhouse dedicated to this, you could be growing all this food, you know, in a desert as we are right now. So what we have here is this space is basically being irrigated naturally every time someone takes a shower or washes their hands. Because the water, instead of disappearing, will basically go into these planters and feed all the roots of all these plants. So all of this is basically fed through the water which you've used in your house. So in a normal house, you use the water, then it disappears,
right,
and then you use more water to irrigate your plants. We're using the same water we're using inside the house to irrigate the plants with, without actually having to do it manually, because it does itself. So we have parrots who are swimming around. What we have here is what we could kind of call an aquaponic system. So we have fish in the water, and they are basically eating different things, and then they have their excrements in the water will then be pumped up and go through different plants, which are going to filter it and use the nutrients from their excrements to feed the plants.
Sure.
And then when this water goes back into the ponds, it is cleaned already and has oxygen, so the fish are very happy. So it's a kind of closed loop. As many things in an Earthship, we're creating a kind of loop where everything works together and helps each other. The first thing that I wanted to show you is the water. So here we have hot and cold water. And as we talked about before, the hot water is heated with the sun, with solar panels. That's what creates the hot water. The filtration for this water is not to the optimum potable water. So this one here is specially for drinking water. So this one has been filtered more than the normal one. So it's just to show we have this water coming from the rain, but depending on the usage, we're also going to filter it in different ways. And I'm going to show you the whole system where we filter it in just a second. And as you can see, once the water gets used, it'll go straight down here and go into this planter where these plants are going to use it to grow, and at the same time going to filter it. And from this planter, it's going to go into the other botanical cell to feed all the rest of the vegetation there.
So what you're saying is that the water is utilized a few times over before it actually becomes what we would call traditionally wastewater.
Exactly. So let's say we have our water that goes from the rain, it goes into the cistern. From the cistern, it goes, we can use it, let's say, to wash our hands.
Right.
So we've used it once to wash our hands, but then it goes and it's irrigating the plants. So it's allowing them to grow, and at the same time it's filtering it. That's the second usage, let's say, of the water. And when we go to the toilet and we're using the water to flush, this water is pumped from the planters into the toilet.
Right.
So we've already used the water twice before it goes into the toilet. So we're never using clean water for the toilet.
So tell me, why haven't traditional housemakers or real estate developers sort of latched onto this technology? Because this seems like it's doable even outside of where we are right now. Even in cities, it can be used.
I think we are starting to go in the right direction. But we had a moment when, very affordable, let's say, hydrocarbon kind of energies meant that we could heat our house, get water, everything else without having to think about it, because we had the energy to do so. Now that the energy is becoming more scarce, that the price might, increase in the future, people are thinking of new ways to deal with this, as well as renewable energy and all this. What Earthship, the particularity it has is that it uses all of these things together. It uses renewable energy, treating water, as efficiently as possible, growing your own food, using recycled materials. So all of these different things, are combined together to create a space which is as self-sufficient as possible. Just imagining that behind it is tires, someone looking at it the first time would not realize. Here we have bottles and here we have cans, aluminum cans. But just to show you the structure of the wall itself, here you can see the tires. So the tires are basically used a little bit like you would use bricks. So generally you put a brick over two other bricks to give it more kind of strength. What happens with these tires is that they're compacted with earth inside.
Sure.
So we compact them with sledgehammers. It's quite a physical job. But once we compact them, this kind of will grow. The rubber is going to push at the bottom, and it's going to go and shape into the shape of these two at the bottom.
You can actually see it. You can see how they've sort of expanded.
Expanded at the bottom.
Because traditionally a tire would end about there.
Stop there. Exactly. Right. So these are compacted to maybe 95% strength. That means solidness inside. So you can't even move the rubber when you touch it. So all of these put together, one on top of the other, and you can see it's also got like a kind of slope going outwards, and that's also to contain whatever earth is behind it, because the particularity with these houses too is that they are buried at the back. So basically this wall is on one side holding everything that's behind it, at the same time it's holding the roof, and at the same time it's thermal mass, which means that when the sun heats up the wall, it's going to accumulate the heat, and then this heat can go back inside the house. So after you've compacted all these tires, you basically want to fill them up with matter. In this case they've put cement, but you can also do it with mud. And so to use less cement, they're putting different kinds of garbage in between, so you're using less cement.
Sure. So, and it stays as compact and solid as possible.
Exactly. So then over this you can see that they've already started putting, this is a mud kind of plastering, which would then finish off completely flat on a normal wall, and then you would not be able to see the tires anymore.
Okay.